On today's show, it is a day of nothing, dare I say nothing, but celebration after your 2025 San Diego Padres officially clinched a playoff spot on a walk-off win, second year in a row, clinching playoffs in a dramatic fashion. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Tuesday, September 23rd. As always, I am your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've recovered this team for nearly 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but various other outlets, including justbaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Today, they're sponsoring the episode, guys. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Be sure to go check that out. And today's show is going to be a good one because the Padres are officially playoff bound. It was expected, right? Don't get me wrong. This was a last-second heroic playoff clinching moment like the Rays from back in 2012, if anybody remembers the Evan Longoria walk-off to send them into the postseason on Game 162. But other than that, still a really good moment for this Padres team. Going to be recapping the game, talking a little about Nick Pivetta, and even some of the lineup stuff. Mr. Luis Arraez, does he deserve a little bit of love? Has he won himself back into my good graces? Well, not exactly, but we're still going to talk about him and answer some more mailbag questions from leftover from yesterday's show for all my everydayers. That's right. Got to keep it going. No question gets left behind, folks. And no comment either. Doesn't even have to be a question. But let's begin with the game recap really quickly. The Padres win this one by a score of 5-4. Let's start off first with the pitching. It was kind of a pitcher's duel, or at least it was tabbed as one, with Freddie Peralta, the Brewers' best, versus Nick Pivetta, the Padres' best. Pivetta ends up going 5 2/3 in this one, 3 earned runs on 4 hits, 5 walks, though, and 5 Ks. So, while you may be wondering, why didn't Schilt keep him in for that last out? I don't blame him because he did get up there in the walk. The last time that Schilt pulled Pivetta, both myself and my postcast partner, Mr. Big Jim Grease, go check out the postcast live every day, everybody, on YouTube after the game. Just some live content for you if you need that immediate reaction. You know what I mean? Big Jim is there for you. But I think we both agreed he had give up a lot of home runs. So in this game, you might be wondering, it does feel like it's a little bit of an early pull, more so than last time because of the hard hit contact stuff. And when you look at Pivetta's like peripherals, some of the other things with him, he wasn't necessarily generating as many swings and misses as you would like, right? 11 swings on his curveball, only 1 whiff, right? The fastball did get hit pretty hard at times. An average exit velo of 95, average exit velo on the curveball was 94. So it wasn't his best start in the world, albeit against a very good team, but I think it was more just the walk stuff, I think is why Schilt said, you know what, let's pull this guy. And I'm okay with it because, again, I mean, I'm not okay with it in totality. I have criticized Schilt for what I feel like have been some early pulls lately. I didn't like the Randy Vasquez one, which ended up not going right. But the Pivetta one and then this Pivetta one ended up going right for the Padres as they won both of those games. So I'm not going to hate on him too much. It's just light, gentle criticism for him when it comes to some of that stuff. But on the other side of things, Freddie Peralta kind of killed the Padres. And this is one of the things that I think could also pop up in the playoffs. It can always pop up in the playoffs, but we've seen this Padres team sometimes against the good teams doesn't do as well, and against good pitching. You know, are they the type of team that can go out there and shock the world and be great against the team's number 1 ace in a playoff series? I'm not totally sure, because in this one, 5 innings for Freddie Peralta, he does give up 2 earned runs on 4 hits, 1 walk and 6 Ks, but one of the runs is a balk that occurs in the first inning. He kind of falls off of the rubber and whatnot. He messes up his pitching. Full delivery, and then he doesn't throw the ball, so it's a balk. Manny Machado ends up scoring with the bases loaded. Jay Cronenworth unable to get the RBI. He actually goes 0-for-4 in last night's game. But even still, like that. Here's what I'm trying to say is that's the only way the Padres scored. And then a Jose Iglesias solo home run in this one, only his second of the year, and dare I say, only second good moment he's had in the last few months. Right, he gets the home run in this one, which is fantastic. We love it when any of our bench unexpected guys come through. He actually goes 2 for 3 in this one with a home run and a walk. Great night for Iglesias, and even on a great night, he did have a fielding error. Right, so not the best, but we still must just survive until Xander is back. But Freddie Peralta, like a lot more of the stuff aside from the Iglesias mistake and aside from the balk, a pretty good start for him. right? He actually generated a lot of swings. His slider was absolutely phenomenal. But the Padres did make some good contact. Manny Machado, specifically, in this game, actually got kind of robbed. The home run right after Jose Iglesias, Machado hits an absolute blast that probably should have been at least extra bases or something. It was one of the hardest hit balls of the night, the 8th, in fact, 104 off the bat, and had an expected batting average, according to Baseball Savant, of 870. So absolutely getting robbed, the Padres did on that one. Not necessarily a home run, but that longer, center field that the Padres have makes it that sometimes there's some extra base hits or home runs that they aren't going to hit there, because that's just the reality of Petco's confines. But really unlucky there, I must say. Really, really unfortunate for Manny Machado, who's slowly trying to get out of the, just out of the muck, right? Jay Cronenworth also got a little bit unlucky in the first inning with his flyout. That was a 660 expected batting average, right? Even though he doesn't come through with the bases loaded and they end up scoring with the balk, they did have some unlucky moments when the batter clearly seems to have delivered, at least in a, statistical way, with both Machado after Iglesias and Cronenworth after the balk. So whatever, the Padres still get the W. But again, I think Freddie Peralta did do well, better against the Padres than maybe some of the numbers suggest, especially when it comes to getting the strikeouts. But overall, I think they fared pretty okay against a team that has the best record in Major League Baseball. So shout out to the Padres. Very, very good stuff. But of course, it wasn't about that. Luis Arraez also gets an RBI in this game. Gotta shout him out. Gotta give some love to the boy. Only 1-for-5 game from him, but still, over the last few games, Luis Arraez has at least been driving in runs. In fact, over his last over his last 5 games, he's got 4 RBIs in his last 5 games, right? 1 in each. He's at least been doing that. And while he hasn't been getting multi-hits, right, he does have a nice little hitting streak going, which is very nice. Since September 10th, he's had a hit in every game. He had a 3-hit game on 9/11. He had a 3-hit game on 9/12. 2-hit game against the Rockies, right? So he's been slowly coming alive. Maybe a little bit, too late, right, for that, because it's so late in the season. But for the playoffs, if this guy, since he's probably going to be at the top of the lineup or the number 2 spot, they need him to deliver. They're going to need him to deliver in situations like this. And at least at the end of this season, he has come through. And you saw him really pumped up after getting the RBI. He knows, I really got to show up. I got to do great for this team. And hopefully he can. But folks, we're not done yet. Let me take a quick second to talk to you about our friends over at Nutrafol. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. Here's the big old thing. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, that actually works. I doubt it. I object. I don't believe you, sir. There are too many products out there. It's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything, and that's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. It is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. You notice less shedding, healthier-looking hair. You're going to feel great. It's going to give you that confidence for your daily routine, right? Just when you're getting ready in the morning, whatever it is. All it is 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. It is easy, and you can feel good about knowing Nutrafol is NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies as well. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners, that's you guys, $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol, NUTRAFOL.com, promo code Locked On MLB. Go on and check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back here, Locked On Postseason Bound Padres podcast. As always, everybody, leave comments in the comment description on YouTube, Locked On Padres on YouTube, if you'd like to have some of your questions read and answered on the show, especially since the season's winding down. Going to be answering them here and again on every other episode, right? Just because why not? I want to make sure I get to every comment because it's fun. But let me just finish up because we actually didn't finish talking about the game. Gavin Sheets in the bottom of the 10th inning. After that Arraez single, which ties the game at 3-3, we end up going to extras, free baseball. Gavin Sheets to a fielder's choice. And I will say, Gavin Sheets, again, some unlucky moments for the Padres. A great play by the Brewers' first baseman. Right? Great play by the homie, what is his name? Give me a second. Andrew Vaughn, who actually, another former White Sox, guys. Aren't the White Sox funny? Every player that leaves there does great against Gavin Sheets. So a former White Sox on former White Sox crime there, robbing what could have been extra bases, but they still do at least get the go-ahead run in that moment, and then, or I'm sorry, the tying run, and then the bottom of the 11th after the bullpen shuts them down. Freddie Fermín with the walk-off. He's been playing a lot better lately, by the way. Shout out to him. Genuinely, like, has been playing a lot better, hitting about 270 as of late for the Padres. Just getting some hits, doing what we need for him to do. This is what they traded for, and they're hoping that he can just be a guy that delivers a little bit offensively, just a little bit. He's a 692 OPS guy overall, but they're just hoping, can you at least give us a little bit, be a better, decent catcher? And that's what he's kind of been. Although he did go through a slump at one point, he still has been that overall. Walk-off hit. Last year, the Padres clinched in a crazy way with a game-ending triple play against the Dodgers. So this isn't quite as crazy, but it's still a really dramatic way to make the postseason. As Don Russillo mentioned on the call, 4 out of 6 of the last seasons the Padres have made the postseason. And while they have been inconsistent, right? This has been a team and franchise that has had a lot of highs and a lot of downs when it comes to this Preller era, right? You have the Soto trade and losing him, but you have getting Soto in the first place. You have everything Tatis, right? You have last year's playoffs, at least in the first round. You have the 2022 season when they weren't expected to be good and they didn't have Tatis and they made the trades and they did all those things and they beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. You have the 2021 disgrace. You have the 2023 disgrace. It has been a roller coaster. It has been a roller coaster, the likes of which we haven't seen since that Drake and Josh episode when they rode the Demonator, right? This has just been one of those teams that, at the very minimum, has never boring to talk about. I don't think I've had one episode that I've recorded in the last 5 years in which I was like, wow, there really is nothing else to say. Sure, there might not be anything else to say with certain things about the team, right? Dylan Cease, I'm running out of things to say. I've already analyzed the slider falling off, all that sort of stuff. But what can you do, right? It's still a team that is always going to be there for us, I think. And it's just really cool. And I'm really blessed, honestly, to be covering them on this podcast. I just love that it seems like I got in at the right time, right? Forget all the jokes about the last chopper out of Knob, right? I got in on the first chopper heading to Disney World, apparently. I don't know. I couldn't think of an analogy, but you guys get my point. This has just been such an incredible ride. And look, can they win? Can they go far? I personally do not think that this iteration of the Padres team is a type of team that can go really, really deep into the postseason. I thought that about last year's team, and I think most people agreed. In fact, the team that beat them also agreed in the Los Angeles Dodgers, saying they thought that the Padres were the best team in the sport. Right? So I don't know if they could go super far, but can they win a first round series? Of course. And it's the playoffs. So obviously anything can happen and probably will happen, right? In a lot of ways. And look at the Brewers. Yeah, I understand how good they've looked, but they also looked good last year too. They've had a lot of years of looking good. I understand the Dodgers look good, but the majority of the Dodgers in the playoffs over the last 10 years, excluding Shohei, obviously, who is just a demigod, so having him, the aura might be enough to help them, that they have had some rough playoff moments as well. So it's totally possible. The Phillies could lose. All these different things could happen. Maybe the Padres get really far. Maybe they make it to the LCS. I don't know. But what I do know is that's a heck of a way to clinch a postseason spot, and I'm super amped about it. And I think that if there are some takeaways, aside from wins and losses, right? Aside from just, making the playoffs again, right? It is that I do think the Padres lineup has shown a lot of life lately, right? They're expected to get Xander Bogaerts back any day now. And also, you see Jackson Merrill, right? Also, I didn't mention him. He goes 2 for 5 in last night's game. Doesn't, nothing, no extra bases or anything like that. But we're starting to see the Jackson Merrill. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I do think it's worth mentioning that Jackson Merrill has been absolutely on fire to close out his season, looking like he's gotten over the hump. That sophomore year hump, right? 956 OPS in September. He's slugging 640. And last month, he also slugged 482. So it looks like he's kind of back, right? This is really positive sign for the Padres. Ryan O'Hearn, right? He doesn't have a big game for the team, but he does go 1 for 4 with a walk, right? Gets on base twice. Arraez, I mentioned, he's been hitting a lot better. Over his last 12 games, he's hitting 326. That's pretty good. Not the best advanced stats in the world, right? He's only got 347 on base. He's not walking as much, not hitting any extra bases, right? No extra bases over that time frame. Classic Arraez. But this is kind of what you're hoping for from him, right? The fact that he's just going to come in there, give you some hits when it matters. And I did say last year that I thought if there was going to be a guy who could just go on a rampage in the postseason, it would be a Luis Arraez type, right? Just because we've seen guys who could just make contact and put the ball in play. Even if they're not very good players, they can have postseason moments. They can be awesome in short type of time spans, right? And then the opposite is also true when it comes to great players over a long season, which is the type of players that I think teams like the Brewers tend to have. Guys who their overall value adds up when prorated out to a 162-degree game sample size, right? But with the Padres in the playoffs, it's totally possible that Arraez could have a nice stretch here. Again, 326 over his last 12 games. That's pretty good. Again, some multi-hit games against the bad team in the Rockies, right? That's where he got a lot of his multi-hits. But even still, I like it. I still like what I'm seeing, and I like that this team overall seems to have gotten over whatever little bit of a rut that they were in recently. So shout out to the Padres, and shout out to Mike Schilt, right? Got to give a shout out to our guy Mike Schilt. 86 wins on the season. Possibly more. We'll see how the season ends. Curious to see how they go in this next game against the Brewers, in which they are going to have Randy Vasquez going against Bruce Zimmerman making some sort of debut. So that should be interesting. I actually feel like Randy Vasquez is the weirdly perfect pitcher for this type of Brewers team. I could be wrong. Churio might take him deep in the first inning, right? But there's something about this Brewers team that I feel like Randy Vasquez could have a good night. I feel like it. I do. And feel free to leave comments if I'm right, and definitely leave comments if I end up being wrong, guys. But of course, we are not done with today's episode, the Celebration Fest. We got to also respond to some of your guys' questions that I didn't finish over on Monday's show, because it's what I do. All right, I'm a man of my word. You know what I mean? But first, guys, 1 second. To talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel. And here's the thing with FanDuel, guys. They've been a sponsor of the podcast for a long time, and they're still giving you amazing, amazing offers, because with the NFL season here, FanDuel is making sure you get all the amazing deals when that kickoff happens on Thursdays, on Sundays, on Mondays, whenever it is, and it's with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. FanDuel is easy for you. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. $300 of bonus bets, guys. Once in a lifetime offer. Go check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and certainly vibing here on the last waiting moments of the show. And look, again, I just want to reemphasize one more time that I don't know what's going to happen in the postseason, but bottom line is I still think it means something that this team has made the playoffs a lot, had some big moments, especially when there are other teams with bigger budgets with the Dodgers, and you've also got some really tough teams in the D-backs. And even to a degree, the Giants at least are a team that can usually be okay, right? Now, they have had some really bad goings of things, right? Let's be very clear. The Giants have not been a very well-run, well-operating team for a long time. Their farm system, all that sort of stuff. But even still, I think that they have shown that they have been a little bit of a pest with the Padres. They were a decent team in 2020, and they were one of the most randomly inexplicable. Like, guys, go look up the Fangraphs article on the Giants from 2021. Like, it's one of the most inexplicable things that's ever happened, is them winning more than 100 games. That team. It's like genuinely insane. It was like the Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey going nuts, like crazy, crazy stuff. But I think what's really interesting about the playoffs right now for baseball is who else is going to make it, because the Mets actually might be the team that's collapsing. The Mets, guys, might pull off something that is even worse than the 2023 and 2021 collapses, mess ups, bad seasons. The fact that they might miss the postseason is genuinely insane. Call it the curse of Juan Soto. I don't know what it is, but shout out to them. And shout out to you, the listeners, for sending in all of your questions and comments as per usual. Some of them are just comments that I like to read and address and even make fun of, like this comment from @FreedomTrucker2332. People are delusional if they think the Pods will do anything other than get spanked in the first round of the playoffs, and that's even if they actually hold on and get into the postseason. This team has no spine. I think it's really funny that you were doubting the Padres would make the playoffs. Like, all right, early in the year, fine, that's okay. You want to be a hater, like, before the season even starts, that's fine. But I think it was made abundantly clear that this team was going to make the playoffs after they Yes, they had that really bad stretch, right? We've talked about this a lot at the beginning of the month, right? Losing to the Orioles, but them getting that series win against the Rockies really saved them, right? And despite the fact that they did lose to the Reds, that kind of saved them a little bit too. And then they beat the Rockies after that. It was okay, right? So again, not as good of a month as we might have hoped that the Padres could have, but they kind of left that danger zone as soon as they played okay against the Rockies, right? And especially because apparently, even if they did blow it, the Mets are the ones that are going to be the outsiders looking in, apparently, because they've just been a true collapse. And I really do believe we overuse the term collapse in sports. Here's another one of my minor hot takes that has nothing to do with the Padres. I think we overuse the term collapse in sports sometimes. I think the Mets fans, they thought that they had a collapse back in 2022 because they lost their last series of the year against the Braves, and then they lose against the Padres first round. They won 100 games. That's not a collapse, right? Like, that was insane that Mets fans were trying to... You don't know what it's like to live in the darkness. This year, though, it would be a collapse. But anyway, enough about the Mets. Moving on to another comment. This one coming from Tony Sue, who says, despite so much negative comments from some, Cronenworth has been one of Preller's better signings, I think. If you look at Cronenworth's history, he wasn't drafted high, so talent evaluators never considered him someone special. Normally, you don't sign ordinary players for the long term. But Preller saw Cronenworth having certain talents, including versatility and consistency, as valuable to building a long-term foundation core. So, Preller again did what a lot of GMs wouldn't do. He signed a no one special. I don't know what you mean by that. For the long term, so that every year he wouldn't have to worry about filling a hole at all those infield positions Cronenworth plays. And so in this way, Cronenworth has been a big part of how the Padres team has been built and why sometimes Preller can take a chance on someone else. Because however that other deal turns out, Cronenworth is still around in case the pieces have to be backed up. I really like that point you made there, that Tony Sue made here, that he does have good versatility. And I do believe that my overall take on Jake Cronenworth a few years back was that I just don't think that you extend a utility type of player like Cronenworth for 8 years when you didn't really have to. You still had some team control, right? I just don't think that that's something that you needed to do. But in fairness to him, over that time frame, he has not been the reason that the Padres have been bad. Don't get me wrong, he's had some rough go of things, right? I think it's really good that he's back at second base finally. I think it's very clear that Jake Cronenworth is a second baseman primarily, and that he's more comfortable there, right? Because this year, he's a 2.9 wins above replacement player, according to Fangraphs. The guy has a 369 on base, right? He's been hitting the ball when they need him to. And with runners in scoring position, he's been very good at that this year. And while he has been shaky at second defensively, he's made a couple plays at least, right? And he's had a couple moments at first base. He's even had a couple moments playing shortstop actually this year in the few innings that he's had to, especially as of late since Xander Bogaerts went out. He actually has one defensive run saved there and 3 outs above average, by the way. Much better than his second base numbers, which I think is interesting. But Cronenworth, bottom line, just the definition of solid. He's fourth on the team in wins above replacement, right? Only behind Tatis, Machado, Bogaerts. Those are the only ones that are ahead of him. So good stuff, I think, all around from Jake Cronenworth. And I agree. I just really think that they did not have to do an extension for a player like him when they did. But the average annual value, the yearly money that they allocate to him is not something that's killing them. I just had a little bit of question about the years. But one thing's for sure is that Cronenworth is going to put together good at-bats. Even last night, right, with the balk that ends up happening, he fouled off a lot of pitches. Jake Cronenworth kind of does what a lot of people think Luis Arraez does. A guy who fights at the plate. Don't get me wrong, Arraez fights, and he can foul off and make contact with anything. But oftentimes, it's going to be a bad pitch that gets hit lightly into the infield, hit lightly on the ground, or anything like that. Cronenworth is going to be able to draw walks and just see longer at bats. So that's what I've loved about him this year, and I absolutely agree, man. He's been fantastic. Another comment from @PhoenixAsh927 talking about how he went to the game last week. Wednesday's Mets-Padres game was so intense, I sat in right field, 2 rows behind Tatis, and every pitch was a nail-biter. Even after going up 6-2, they ended up winning this game, guys, by the way, 7-3. Thankfully, our boys understood the assignment, and Schilt went full playoff mode, pulling Pivetta when he did. And now I'm on my way to watch your boy Vasquez pitch a no-hitter that baffles statisticians for the rest of the time. And also, shout out to Tatis. He made sure that the only 2 Padres fans, other than myself, got baseballs from him. 2 teenagers who absolutely lost it, that they both got a ball from him. And shout out to Tatis. He made sure of all these things. He's been great. Look, Tatis is like... One quick thing of analysis. Also, I'm happy you enjoyed the game, match, and I'm really sad I couldn't make it out to the games despite it being in New York. Tatis really doesn't get enough credit in some ways for being just a stand-up good law, let's not law abiding like he was doing awful things, like awful things, right? But to a degree, law abiding citizen that just hasn't had basically any drama. The only thing with Tatis that's been dramatic is his level of play and his lack of slug over these past few years, right? Like, or past few months. And these past 2 seasons, right? Like, just hasn't been able to do that. He gets the off day yesterday, which is great. But what I love about him is just, I think he just clearly learned the lesson. And again, I take issue sometimes with people acting like PEDs is the worst sin an athlete can literally ever commit. I'm being dead serious about that, because you will see players and fans just absolutely lose it. But then when someone does something horrendously evil, like it genuinely like breaks the law in a lot of ways, everybody's quiet, right? I don't know. It's just a thing of mine. But with Tatis, he has the let's say verbal altercation with Manny Machado back in 2021, right? Famous, you could look it up. It was against the Cardinals, Manny yelling at him. Turns out maybe Manny was onto something, right? And don't get me wrong, Manny Machado has had his moments in the past of not being the best. When it comes to the unwritten rules, and more importantly, just being a little bit immature, throwing his helmet towards Josh Donaldson. We all know that, right? But he's been calm for a long time and just been the ultimate leader for this team in a lot of ways. And that made you wonder, maybe he knows something about Tatis, and maybe he did, because then what happens after that? He refuses to get his surgery when he probably should have, right? Not refuses, but he doesn't get the surgery when he was supposed to, right? On his shoulder. Then what happens? The bike accident. And then he very, jokingly, like it's all funny in business, he doesn't take it seriously. He's a happy-go-lucky kid, I get it. But he's like, wait, which accident? When they asked him when was the accident, when did it occur? He said, which one, right? The most famous outcome. Then what happens? He's coming back to the team. He's hitting home runs all over AAA. And then what happens? You get popped for PEDs right after they trade for Juan Soto. And then you see everybody come out. Joe Musgrove, AJ Preller, Manny Machado. Mike Clevenger, who we've talked about in this show, the only one that does not have the right to be getting mad at Tatis for off the field, bonehead decisions like with the PEDs. Because I'm like, Mike Clevenger, you broke protocol in the middle of COVID, at the very beginning of COVID, and one of your teammates had a heart condition. So, that's pretty selfish. Just go to a goddamn nightclub, by the way. So, shout out to Mike Clevenger. The only one, and I stand by it, that was disgraceful. But ended up being proven right on by Clevenger. And nowadays, what happened with Tatis? Clearly learned. He always played whatever position Bob Melvin needed him to in the 2022 season. He said first batter, fourth batter, whatever position, he's always there. What does he do after getting moved off shortstop? He is awesome defensively, wins a platinum glove, and this year could be a gold glove winner, right? He was a little bit down a little bit last year, but the fact that he easily transitioned over there deserves a lot of credit, never complaining, and don't get me wrong, still has the juice every now and then. Right? Especially in big games. In the playoffs last year, he could still get amped and excited, don't get me wrong. But he's been a lot more mellow at times. And I think that has overall benefited him. I want to see him be that happy guy all the time. I want to see it more often. It's always great, right? But I just think he deserves a lot of credit for everything that he's done, because that was a really bad stretch. Not just for maturity, but also play and just not being available. And this year, he's going to end up probably, depending on how he finishes this, a nearly 6 wins above replacement player, which, by the way, guys, I know that it's not as exciting because he didn't hit the home runs, but that is going to be Tatis's highest F4 total in his career since 2021, right? 2021, he had 6.8 because he hit 42 home runs. It was absolutely ridiculous in 2021, right? But overall, Tatis deserves all the credit in the world. Thank you for writing about that, Ash. Love to see that. And I've heard he's great with the fans as well. So really, really good stuff. But that about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Send some comments in the comment section of this video and any other video, and we'll answer them throughout the week and throughout next week, as well as before we get ready for the playoffs. Playoff bound, baby. It's great. And there's another question we have about Juan Soto that we're going to answer on tomorrow's show. Should be a good one. But until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.